I also think that we are at war with Islamofascists. And while I don't think we should invade every country, and I think that military force is the last option on the table and should be weighed with the thought that is it vital to our national security interests anytime we put our soldiers in harm's way. I know we're at war. I know we're going to war at some point in a way that we have been at war, most likely with Iran or their proxies, which we fought in the past and continue to. I believe the butcher's bill is going to be much higher because of President Obama acquiescing, in essence acquiescing when it comes to abandoning the fronts in Iraq and Afghanistan and allowing that vacuum to fill with the enemy, to give them more time to plan, more time to grow, more time to develop, more time to get their message out. I think the president, I don't want to insult the man, but I don't think he's interested in history. I don't think he understands evil because he does not recognize it, or he is a multiculturalist that believes that a society based on Islamism is on par with Judeo-Christianity, a society and a culture that's based on that, which is our foundation, Judeo-Christian foundation that we have in this country. We shouldn't apologize for it. We should be saying thank you. Atheists should say thank you. They should. They don't recognize that actually gives them the freedom to believe in nothing. It's amazing. Every day I come in and I go, where do I begin? How do I eat the elephant? Where do we start? Well, why don't we start with this one? President Obama, we shouldn't be on a permanent war footing. Here's just part of the State of the Union last night where he addressed our national security and the front line. Afghanistan, one of the fronts, certainly. Roll it.
We have to remain vigilant. But I strongly believe our leadership and our security cannot depend on our outstanding military alone. As Commander-in-Chief, I have used force when needed to protect the American people, and I will never hesitate to do so as long as I hold this office. But I will not send our troops into harm's way unless it is truly necessary, nor will I allow our sons and daughters to be mired in open-ended conflicts. We must fight the battles that need to be fought, not those that terrorists prefer from us, large-scale deployments that drain our strength and may ultimately feed extremism. So even as we actively and aggressively pursue terrorist networks, through more targeted efforts and by building the capacity of our foreign partners, America must move off a permanent war footing.
Why don't you just at least admit that we're fighting Islam and Islamists? It's based on the doctrine of Islam. No, I support Muslims that desire to reform Islam. Yeah, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. I mean, it's not, I don't want to get into that. I mean, if you think, I mean, how many straw men were there right there? Believing that we have to use force every time. And open-ended conflicts. And yeah, you believe in putting people in harm's way when and you'll do it. I. Sorry. I am honestly in my flesh right now. Because when I hear the president say these things, I think to myself, rules of engagement, abandoning Iraq, Benghazi, and not necessarily in that order. Benghazi probably hits home first, but then I think about the rules of engagement in Afghanistan. I think about the fact that he's claiming to end wars and not be on a permanent war footing. We are always on a war footing in the sense that we are looking to defend ourselves, and we have those that are looking to destroy us, take us down a notch, actually wipe us from the face of the earth and establish a worldwide caliphate. But hey, don't listen and don't inform yourself about what the enemy really is all about. Of course, you like to help the enemy, Mr. President. Excuse me, your policies help the enemy. I don't believe you can't consciously realize that you're supporting terrorist thugs in the form of Muslim Brotherhood, or you maybe equate that and you say, maybe you factor that in and you say, well, it's good for our security as a nation because all the Islamists want to do is they'll just take care of their little place and they'll just leave us alone. The idea that we're feeding extremism by fighting terrorists. Or, what? Let's just go back to a conspiracy that, if you fight them, you're just going to anger them. And no. Before Gitmo, we had issues, Mr. President. Yeah, before Gitmo, we had 9/11, but we also had 30 years of Islamists and Khomeinists and Salafists slaughtering us and calling for the destruction of Israel, which they're continuing to do. Of course, we want to push Israel to the table and make a peace plan with them as they continue not to recognize its right to exist. I mean, at some point, it just gets absurd. And I think the State of the Union, I would have a lot of respect for the president if he had the fortitude, if he had the actual belief in his ideas and courage of his convictions to lay him on the line in a debate. But I've seen what happens when that actually happens in a fair process. I saw it Romney, Obama won. Or even when they had the healthcare summit, it was 2-1. The president was the referee, and he was on the team of the Democrats. Meanwhile, the Republicans, well, yeah, healthcare summit, we'll get up there and sure we'll do, because they're looking for any opportunity to confront this monstrosity which became Obamacare. Absurd. Absolutely absurd. I don't think we should feed extremism. You know what really feeds extremism? Weakness. And that's what your foreign policy is all about there, Mr. President. Weakness, naivete. And it continues. And you say, Crane, why do you have to rip the president? Well, what would you like me to do? Would you like me to say, it's great the president's making the mistake of Neville Chamberlain. It's great the fact that we're buying into the propaganda of our enemies that seek to destroy us. No, that's just wonderful. That's good. That does a lot for women's rights, Mr. President. Does a lot for homosexual rights if you want to go down that road. Just empower Islamists. Stay classy. Meanwhile, weaken our soldiers by not allowing them to win the war. But, oh yeah, you end wars. No, you don't. You win them. You win them! Excuse me. I mean, do you ever get like this? I was really praying today. I was really trying. And I was like, don't think about it too much. Don't think about what he is saying. Try to just distance yourself enough so you can analyze it and look at the message, and rather than the messenger. And I'm really not concentrating on President Obama. It's really what he says and what he has done. Now, there's a lot more to it. I mean, Pete Sepp's going to be here from the National Taxpayers Union, and we're going to talk to him about the consequences and the cost both of liberty and dollars. And that'll be next hour. And then on the flip side of the break that's coming up, we're going to actually play a few more hits for you and also get some of the responses, which were quite good. Again, Lee and McMillan and Paul. But I do want you to know that we talk about the economy. We have talked about the culture. This is about the culture. Foundationally, the culture is the debate. But a lot of people think that because Iran doesn't have the nuke yet, and maybe we haven't been hit with a large-scale attack from our enemy, the Islamists. But when it happens, and I pray to God it doesn't, but the other part to that, even in saying that, is to recognize we have soldiers on the front lines, and our commander-in-chief is espousing our enemy's propaganda.